Hello, welcome to Closing Tag. My name's Aaron. Today we are starting a video series on developing an API for your application. So an API is just an application programming interface, which is a means for two applications to communicate one to the other. In our case, what we'll be building out is an API from our backend that allows our front end to make requests and receive responses from the backend using that API. So an important step to that is to understand our project structure. What packages are we using? How are we building all of this architecturally? So what we'll do is we'll get into that to begin with. Today we'll also code out our first little route for our front end to query and receive some data from. So let's get into it. This is our project. It is just a front end and back end folder that live in this parent folder. You can grab this repo from the description, clone it, and follow along. There are branches for just the base, the start here, as well as the completed code at the end of the video for all the videos in this series. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the project structure to begin with. The front end is just Vite with a React flavor, so it's React. All it is a simple app being rendered here. Within the source, we can look at our components. The one that we'll be looking at is rendered here, this scrolling message. This is what we care about in this tutorial because it's going to be grabbing the data from the back end. But before we do that, let's head to the terminal and let's just change directory to the front end. Make sure that our packages are installed so you can run npm install. I've already done that. And then once that's installed, you'll have access to the script dev. So we can npm run dev, and that will start up our server at this port. So for me, it's 5173. We'll go ahead and see what that looks like. This is the front end of our app. It is a very simple page with just some basic styling. What we want to do eventually is have this welcome message that scrolls by be coming from our backend. So that's what we are going to set up with our basic API today. We are getting this error if you open your dev tools where the backend just isn't running at all. So even though it's expecting data from there, it can't even talk to the backend whatsoever. So we're going to have a look at how this is set up in React here. Basically, our scrolling message class has this constant variable. It is the welcome message, and its base state is just welcome, like we saw in the browser there. But we are trying to use this hook use effect to fetch some data from the backend asynchronously. We're waiting for a response from this route, which if we look in our environment variables is 5,000. So let's jump back there. And it's just the home route we're expecting some data from. That data is expected to have this format with a property welcome greeting in it. It's expected to be JSON, and we're going to log an error otherwise. Use effect is how React can do things just initially when the page loads or when a state is changed. So if a variable changes or something. In this case, it's just the first time the page loads, we're going to be making this request. So it's expecting this. Let's have a look at the backend and see what it's doing. The backend is Node.js with Express. So let's have a look at our app. Super basic right now, but it's just loading our config file. It's importing Express and initializing an app with Express, and then listening on port 5000. So here we have our very first route, which is the home route, and it's just sending welcome to the backend server right now. If we were to run this, so let's open up our terminal, a second terminal, and let's change directory to the backend. Make sure we run npm install to get those packages initialized, and then what we'll do is we'll run the script dev, which is the same in the backend as it is in the front, and you'll see that your server is running on this port 5000. And if we head over there, sure enough, we get that response that we are sending through app.get, but this isn't quite what the front end is expecting. The front end is expecting data to be in a slightly different format. If we remember, coming back to our scrolling message here, it's actually looking for a welcome greeting prop on some JSON. So what we'll do in our app is we will change this to not be just send, but instead the response is going to return some JSON, and we are going to then write some JSON, which we encapsulate in some curly brackets. The way JSON works is key value pairs. The key here is welcome message, like so. the value is this string, welcome to the backend. Welcome, we could say, this data comes from the backend. Okay, we'll save that. Now our route at the home here is serving, I believe, what our front end is expecting. So let's see if that works. What we have to do is shut down our server here in the back end and then restart it. And we should see with our front end, so we're still getting an error. And if we look here, it's because our request has been blocked by a CORS policy, which is cross-origin resource sharing policy. So essentially, we can't share resources that come from different domains. This is a security policy to make sure no one can access our backend API except for our front end. And what we can do is we can set up express to welcome messages from our front end. So what we have to do is we need CORS. If we look in our package.json, we already have CORS installed. So we can just import it here. Import CORS from CORS. And then as a middleware, we're going to say app.use, and we'll use CORS, and we'll supply it some options. We could do this in a separate variable. I'm just going to do it here, where we say the origin that we expect to be receiving requests from is HTTP localhost, and the localhost port, if you remember from our front end, is 5173. Now we should be able to receive responses from our backend, and our backend should receive requests from our front end. So let's restart the backend server one more time. And when we look in our front end now, we should see here is the welcome message, and it's coming back, and it looks like this. And it looks proper to me, so we need to find out why this isn't displaying here on the scroll bar. And it might have to do with how we have phrased this. Let's have a look at what the property it's expecting is once more. If we go to components, scrolling message, it's looking for data.welcome greeting. So that's the problem, is we've named it improperly and it's looking for different data. So we could just change it here in the front. In VS Code, you can Control D to grab multiple instances and just say that. So if we save that and we refresh this, we'll see that that data is in fact coming from our backend. Even though it's very basic data, it's just housed within the script itself. In future videos, we will add some complexity to this API, but ultimately this is the very beginning of that API. So in this video, we've just gone through and understood the project a little bit, what the front end was set up to receive from the back end, and then we set up the back end to send a response so that the front end could receive it. We looked at some cross-origin resource sharing policy editing. In future videos, we will add some complexity to the system. So go ahead and check out those when they're available. Thanks for watching.